In the depths of the Great Depression, as dust storms buried farms and soup lines snaked through desperate cities, America made a bet, unlike any before, taming the wild Colorado River with a wall of concrete taller than the pyramids. This is how the Hoover Dam became America's greatest gamble. Lives, futures, and a nation's hope all hinged on one audacious decision. But what if the price of victory was far higher than anyone ever imagined? Dust swallowed the horizon as storms swept across the plains, turning day into night and burying farms beneath mountains of grit. In the heartland, wheat fields withered and cattle lay dead in the dust, while families packed their lives into battered trucks, fleeing homes that no longer offered hope. By 1931, unemployment lines stretched for blocks in every major city. 1 in 4 Americans found themselves without work. Men stood in silence outside shuttered factories, their hands raw from searching for any job that might put food on the table. Mothers waited in bread lines, clutching ration tickets and shielding children from the wind that stung their faces and carried away topsoil. Photographers from the Farm Security Administration captured hollow eyes and lined faces, each image a silent record of a nation's despair. The land itself seemed to have turned against its people. Crops failed, savings vanished. In towns from Oklahoma to California, families slept in tents along highways, their futures as uncertain as the weather. With every dust-choked sunrise, the question grew louder. How much longer could America endure? In that desperation, the hunger for relief became a force as powerful as any river. The country stood at a breaking point, searching for a way out of the storm. Congressional chambers echoed with debate as lawmakers weighed the fate of the Colorado River and the millions who depended on it. In December 1928, the Boulder Canyon Project Act passed, authorizing the construction of a dam that would dwarf anything built before. The vote wasn't just a decision on concrete and steel, it was a wager that government could rescue a nation in freefall. Newspapers hailed the plan as both salvation and spectacle. Headlines promised jobs for the idle, water for dying farms, and power for cities that still dreamed of growth. The Bureau of Reclamation, led by engineers with blueprints in hand and reputations on the line, took command of the project. President Herbert Hoover's name quickly became attached to the dam, a symbol of federal resolve in the face of drought and economic ruin. Behind closed doors, Bureau officials met with state representatives, hashing out the Colorado River Compact to divide water among 7 states, each one desperate for a share of the river's promise. Public rallies and press tours painted the project as a triumph of unity, even as private memos warned of bitter fights ahead. The ink on the act was barely dry when surveyors arrived in Black Canyon, staking claims and measuring depths. For the first time, hope and hardship were bound together in the form of the single colossal plan. The gamble was no longer theoretical. America had placed its BET. By sunrise, the canyon floor already shimmered with heat, 45 degrees Celsius, and climbing. Men wiped sweat from their brows as concrete mixers thundered and cableways swung buckets over the chasm. Frank Crow, the chief engineer known for his relentless pace, ordered the pours to continue without pause. The scale of the job defied belief. 3.25 million cubic yards of concrete, enough to pave a highway from San Francisco to New York. but pouring it all at once would have been suicide for the structure. The concrete's own chemistry threatened to destroy the dam before it ever held back a drop of water. As each block set, it released heat, enough to crack itself apart if left unchecked. Crow's solution was as daring as it was untested: break the dam into hundreds of interlocking blocks, each 5 feet high, and thread them with a hidden web of steel pipes. Over 582 miles of pipe snaked through the forms, ready to carry away the deadly heat. Crow's team built a refrigeration plant on site, the largest in the world at the time, capable of churning out 1,000 tons of ice a day. Chilled water just above freezing coursed through the pipes, drawing the heat out of the concrete and out into the desert air. The numbers were staggering: 159 billion BTUs of heat removed. A cooling process that would have taken a century naturally, now finished in just 22 months. Every block was a race against the clock, every pour a gamble between physics and faith. If the cooling failed, cracks would spread, and the dam could crumble under its own weight. But under Crow's command, the system held. The dam rose, cold and solid, defying the sun and the river alike. Yet just beyond the concrete, the river still waited, and the next crisis was already gathering upstream. September 7th, 1934. The Colorado River, swollen by late summer storms, barreled toward the half-finished dam. Downstream, the cofferdam, a temporary earthen wall, stood as the last defense for 6 months of backbreaking work. On that morning, logs recorded the water rising fast, churning brown and cold. Crews scrambled as the surge climbed within 2 feet of the crest. Emergency telegrams flashed between site managers and the bureau in Denver. Men heaved sandbags in frantic lines, boots sinking into mud as foremen shouted above the roar. The river's force threatened to sweep away not just equipment, but the lives and hopes of thousands. Slip, one breach, and months of labor would vanish beneath the flood. High-scalers dangled from ropes above the chaos, chipping loose rock as debris tumbled past. Bill Baugh, a veteran from Kansas, later wrote, "I dangled by a rope. The rocks shot past me, sometimes chunks the size of a Model T. But my family in Kansas needed food. I'd do it again for a pay envelope." Their pay, $4 or $5 a day, was a lifeline during the Depression, but it came at a price. The official casualty ledgers from that year list 96 dead by project's end. Some fell from heights, others vanished in the churning water or suffocated in tunnels where air ran thin. The true toll may never be known. Each evening, a few more chairs sat empty in the mess hall. For every innovation, every gamble with concrete and steel, the river demanded its due. Progress here was measured in lives as much as in yards of concrete. On August 25, 1931, the canyon echoed with more than the sounds of blasting and concrete. Over 1,000 workers dropped their tools and walked off the job, demanding relief from suffocating heat, choking dust, and pay that barely kept their families fed. The strike, organized in part by the industrial workers of the world, brought construction to a halt. 6 companies responded with federal marshals and threats of eviction from the company camps. Strikers pressed for safer conditions, shade tents, clean water, breaks from relentless shifts. After days of standoff, management conceded minor improvements, but the deeper grievances remained. Even as the dam rose, the hands that built it remained expendable. Beyond the labor camps, another silence stretched across the desert. The Mojave, Chemehuevi, and southern Paiute peoples watched as their ancestral river was transformed without their consent. Congressional hearings recorded no testimony from tribal leaders. Their warnings about the loss of sacred places and river access left unspoken in the official record. The dam's promise of progress came at a cost measured not only in wages and lives, but in histories erased and voices ignored. The concrete wall that promised unity also cast a shadow, a reminder that the river's bounty was never shared equally. Lake Mead once stretched across the desert like a promise, holding back more than 25 million acre-feet of water. But every year, the sun steals away 600,000 acre-feet, enough to supply Los Angeles for months, lost to evaporation before it ever reaches a city or farm. In the summer of 1983, swollen by El Niño rains, the reservoir rose so high that engineers opened Hoover's emergency spillways for the first time. Water thundered through concrete chutes, shaking the dam and rattling nerves from the control room to the Las Vegas Strip. For days, officials watched gauges and prayed the structure would hold. The crisis passed, but the warning lingered. Today, the threat runs in the opposite direction. Bureau of Reclamation models show that if drought and overuse continue, Lake Mead could drop below 1,045 feet within 2 decades, shutting down Hoover's turbines and leaving the river trapped behind a wall of dead concrete. A water manager puts it bluntly, "We're now planning for a future where Hoover Dam produces zero power." The gamble is no longer about building the dam, it's about whether the river can survive the bet. When Congress authorized the Boulder Canyon Project in 1928, the nation committed to a concrete gamble, one that would claim at least 96 lives and require 3.25 million cubic yards of concrete, cooled by 582 miles of pipes. The dam delivered on its promise: flood control, irrigation, and enough electricity to power entire cities across the West. Yet, as Bureau of Reclamation data confirm, Lake Mead now loses over 600,000 acre-feet of water each year to evaporation, and current models project the real risk of reaching dead pool levels within our lifetimes. Despite thousands of pages of engineering records and congressional testimony, no document can answer how long the river's bounty will last. Hoover Dam stands as proof of what determination can achieve, and as evidence that every solution brings new uncertainties. The gamble continues as the fate of the Southwest remains tied to a river that is running dry.